This is In Character. I'm your host, Gerard Robinson, Vice President for Education at the Advanced Studies in Culture Foundation. Hello, everyone. This is Gerard Robinson. Welcome back to another session of In Character. And as you know, I meet with a group of wonderful people. We talk about different topics in education. Recently, we talked with people who had a state level view of education and what it looks like. Many of them were or are still educators. And joining me from Utah is Sharon, who's going to talk to us about the great work she's doing in that state. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Gerard.
Good. So many people who are going to watch or listen may never have an opportunity to meet the president of their NEA chapter for their state, or even their maybe regional representative. You were state president. You spent time in the classroom. Talk to us about your decision to seek the position, and then second, in that role, what do you do to influence what takes place in the teaching profession?
Well, I just remember coming to this position after being named the 2009 Utah Teacher of the Year, and I got to travel and see all of the policy decisions that were being made, quite frankly, by folks who were not in the classroom. And that really concerned me because I do think they're well-intentioned folks. Don't get me wrong. I think that there are so many folks in administration who have an extremely difficult job, especially our superintendents, who have at their heart their students and their teachers. But when you've been out of the classroom for any length of time, it's a beast that changes. And it requires the lens of a teacher, a classroom teacher, to get a clear perspective. And so I decided to throw my hat in the ring for president of the UEA, and no one was more shocked than I was when I ended up victorious. And then it was like, now what, right? So I think the important thing is that, one, I needed to be an honest broker in anything I was doing with policymakers in particular, because I think that they go into the work of being a lawmaker with the intent of really making a positive difference. And I think if you approach them from that vantage point of, I know you're here with the intent of doing great things and wanting to make a positive difference. Now, how do we move that difference together? And I think a lot of times what people didn't see about the union and about the association was that we were really about the kids. I think that mantra of us being about teachers' rights, and especially when I came into office, it was 2010, and it was quite a tumultuous time. And so it was my mission as a national board certified teacher and as the teacher of the year, I felt I had a credible voice to bring to this discussion as someone who really did value, along with most of my colleagues, what we were doing in the classroom and being able to impact students, all students, not just some students, all students. And so that was what I attempted to do, was to repurpose the work of the union to be focused around classroom support for students and teachers and building bridges to good policy with that as the foundation of everything we did.
Before you took the job, did you live or were you located near Salt Lake City?
I've been in Salt Lake City for years. Yeah.
Okay, so this was a home for you.
Yes.
As president, did you have to travel? It's a pretty large state. There's the urban and there's very rural parts of the state. Did you have to travel? If yes, what are some of the differences you saw regionally, and how did you help close some of the gaps that you saw in play?
Well, that's such a great question, because let me tell you, Utah, most people think of Utah as white Mormon Republican state, right? And that you could count on one hand the number of minority families, people of color that are in Utah. When in fact, the district that I taught in is a minority majority district. We had over 123 languages that were spoken in my district. So you go from that environment, which was really where my expertise was, to rural, which was a whole different ball of wax and a whole different ball of issues surrounding both teachers and students in rural areas. While there were some trade-offs, the class sizes were usually much smaller in those rural areas. The access, the equity piece of those kids getting what they needed was also an issue, as much as it was for the kids in Salt Lake City who were not getting what they needed. So the equity piece became a significant mantra of mine. And I learned that a lot of people think equity means equality. So being able to step back and go, look, these kids in this environment need this much support, and this is what it looks like. And the kids in the rural area need this support, and this is what it looks like. It's making sure that all children have what they need and all teachers have what they need.
So what was one shocking aspect of the job that you were like, wow, I did not expect this? I'm sure there were more than one, but what's one that comes to mind?
Well, as much as I loved the job, Gerard, the hardest thing for me was a realization that for some folks, it was political.
Yeah.
And as much as I tried to assume best intentions, which I think is a good thing for all educators to do, there are folks out there who really are not interested in best intentions. And I think my passion is my greatest strength, but it's also my greatest weakness, because nothing gets my ire up more than when I feel like I'm dealing with someone who is not coming from a space of lifting all boats, from someone who's coming from, we're going to keep this group of folks down and these teachers down and these kids down because my kid needs this, or this. And that was the hardest thing for me to deal with, the politics of it. I really did think, I was so naive, because I thought, well, we're just all going to put kids at the forefront of our thinking. We're going to be able to sit down. We're going to be able to have these great conversations, and we're going to get great work done. And it was so much harder than that. And so I think as far as being the most difficult thing, that would be it. Yeah.
We're going to have some state level leaders elected and appointed listening or watching this. In the state of affairs we're in right now, COVID-19, questions about reopening, based upon your classroom experience, state leadership experience, what advice do you have to state leaders who are thinking about next steps?
I think it's really important that we are not silent. I see a lot of issues here. I'm in my 60s, so I not only lived through the 60s, but now I'm in the 60s. And it's ironic, because I remember my father taking me to hear Dr. King speak when I was 6 years old. And we got in our wood paneled station wagon. And I'll tell you, I don't remember a thing Dr. King said, because I was so little. I remember being on my father's shoulders and us driving back, and my mom and dad talking about the work we had to do. We have a lot of work to do. And I think to new leaders, I think you have to be, one, an honest broker. You have to speak truth to power. And you have to be willing to call out inequities. And if you're not seeing excellence, whether that's from teachers or policymakers or students, you find a way to not only call that out, but how do we build a bridge to be better? And how do we do better? Because right now, what we're seeing across our country is this reticence to even consider that another person who has a different view is worthwhile sitting down and talking to. We can do that. That's what we do. So we can do that. And you can do that in a forthright and honest way. And I think that's critical. That's just absolutely critical.
It's packed with a lot of wisdom. Do you remember what year your family saw Dr. King speak?
Early 60s. I think I would have been probably 62.
Yeah.
I don't remember where we went or anything.
And I'm assuming this is Utah.
Actually, he spoke in the South. We got in the car, and I know we drove somewhere. We drove. And of course, when I say the South, I couldn't even tell you, but it was several days journey. It was a several days journey.
Because I was going to say, I haven't had an opportunity to listen or read a transcript of the speech he delivered in Utah. So that would have been a good exercise for me to go and pick it up.
Wow, thank you for that. I'd love to see that. Do you?
Oh no, I thought maybe you were my entree into
Oh, no,
finding that.
no,
I thought
okay.
he spoke in Salt Lake City.
No, I don't think he ever came to Utah.
And that's why I was like, wow. The King papers are at Stanford University. There's a professor whose name is on the tip of my tongue. He's gathered all of his paperwork, and in me doing research, either for MLK Day or something, I would go through and take a look. But yeah, Utah is not a state that popped up. Okay. So
No. He was never here, Gerard. I remember we were in the car for a long time. That's all I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the early 60s. Yeah, he was all throughout the South. Could have even been before he earned the Nobel Prize or
Yeah.
afterward.
Yeah.
Well, Sharon, thank you again so much for sharing
Thank
what you
you.
do and providing us with some ideas to chew on.
I appreciate it, Gerard. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, take care.
Take care, dear.